Sorry, I didn't know. We can start now. Perfect. So welcome everyone to today's session. This session is about involving target groups remotely within agricultural supply chains. My name is Noeli Swara and I work for the GIZ Initiative for Sustainable Agricultural Supply Chains. And I'm your host for today's session. Please excuse my voice. I'm a little bit sick at the moment, so that's a bit off maybe sometimes, but we'll be fine. I'm very happy that you found your way to this exciting slot at the RMMV Conference organized by KfW. And let me quickly introduce the speakers of today's session to you. So we have Luca Fischer, based in Indonesia. Hi, Luca. We have Saurav Srivastava, based in Norway and working for FarmForce. Hi. And we have Melanie Madrid working for ProExo Cooperative in Honduras. Hi, Melanie. As we have heard just now during Toby Gardner's keynote speech, the new due diligence legislations, and in particular, the forthcoming EU regulation on deforestation-free products, will make traceability back to plantation a requirement for some products in the near future. In this context, remote technologies can play a key role when it comes to verifying where a certain product comes from. But you may ask yourself, what technical developments are we seeing right now? Are there any practical applications? Rest assured, the answer is yes, and we will see some of these use cases and best practice example during today's session. So what can you expect? We will have a look at different digital tools that can be used for increased traceability in agricultural supply chains. You will be able to learn from industry experts who are here with me today on the stage and who will present use cases and best practices from first-hand experiences on the ground. And the best thing is, we'll be doing a round-the-world trip without actually having to spend any CO2 emissions. So we will start in Indonesia, where Luca Fischer is based. He is working for Coltiva, and he will talk about the quality trace solution and an example from the palm oil sector in Indonesia. Then we will move to Norway, where Saurav Srivastava is based. He works for FarmForce, and he will present the FarmForce platform and will give a short live demo of the Global Forest Watch deforestation module as well. And last but not least, we will travel to Honduras to meet Melanie Madrid. Melanie is working for the ProExo Coffee Cooperative in Honduras, and she will present a first-hand experience from mapping all polygons of the cooperative's coffee farms. Each presentation will last approximately 10 minutes and will be followed by a Q&A session. And as you probably know, we use Slido integrated into the Hopin platform to crowdsource the questions from you. And I was told that you should please refresh Hopin and refresh the browser so that you can use Slido for this session again. Be open-minded, be active, feel free to share your questions with us and we will be happy to answer them right after each one of the presentations. Now, before we jump into the first presentation with Luca Fischer, let's start by looking at where you stand on the issue. For this, we have prepared a quick poll and would like to ask you the following question. What is your level of expertise when it comes to the topic of transparency and traceability in agricultural supply chains? You will see 5 answers in Slido from which you can choose one. So please answer what your level of expertise is. Do you have a very high or high knowledge, or are you new to this field of work? So I'm very happy and curious to know more about your experience. Great, I see the first answers coming in. At the moment, 33% say that they have medium or some basic knowledge about traceability in agricultural supply chains. Some others, 24%, say that they have low or little knowledge. So maybe we can take these answers also into account while presenting the use cases. But we also have 17% who say, or 14 now, who say that they have a high knowledge. Great, 5% are experts in the field. Very interesting. Great, so now we have a better understanding of who's sitting with us here and who is listening to the presentations in the audience. And without further ado, I would now like to introduce Luca Fischer. He's program manager at Coltiva, based in Indonesia. And Luca will carry on with his presentation on the new EU regulation on deforestation-free supply chains, challenges and opportunities for smallholders. Please, Luca, the floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for joining this session today. It's a pleasure to be here. As Noel already mentioned, I will sharing a use case from the palm oil sector and how RMMV systems are applied there. And I will be linking it to the EU regulation like you listened to before. And we'll also show a bit how this can be an opportunity maybe for smallholder farmers to be integrated in global sustainable supply chain. So for everyone who doesn't know us yet, Coltiva, we are the leading global agri-tech company that helps multinational enterprises like Nestle, Mars, and GAR to make their global supply chain traceable, inclusive, and climate smart. And we provide both the technology, so different mobile and web applications that include fintech, agri-tech, and climate tech components, and also the boots on the ground services, so extension stuff to map smallholder farmers to meet the EU regulation, to assess Scope 3 greenhouse gas emissions, and also to train and coach smallholder farmers to achieve certification standards such as Rainforest Alliance or RSPO. We are working currently in 32 countries, expanding massively, and working along 39 different commodity supply chains, including cacao, rubber, palm oil, coffee, and dairy. So just linking to the session earlier, in the last months, there's been a lot of debate on the EU regulation. And I think one of the major topics was the potential adverse effects it could have on smallholders in global sustainable supply chain. So there is actually this concern from a lot of, especially from the private sector, that this might exclude because of the geolocation requirements. So all maps, they need to be at least a GPS coordinate, that they might be excluded because of this from global supply chain. And I would like to show you today this case study to show how agri-tech and RMMV system really can try to tackle this challenge. So I would like to take you to Indonesia, to the Loisa ecosystem. This is located in Sumatra province. And what we see here in this project area, it's one of our many projects, we see that there's a decrease actually of deforestation over the last years. But what we do see also is that there is an increasing trend of smallholder-driven deforestation, small spots here and there. And within this project, we work with our clients such as GAR, it's a large refinery company, integrated refinery company, and Mars to achieve traceability within their supply chain until plantation level. And we also train and coach farmers to reach certification standards such as RSPO and ISPO. And we are currently in the process to really scale this up around the Loisa ecosystem, and we are always happy for new members to join this project area. So when I was preparing the presentation, I was looking at, okay, how does RMMV system actually apply that, and how does it benefit us, within this project and our clients? And I see here 3 key areas how it benefits us. So first of all, the combination of tech with boots on the ground really helps us to provide an effective project delivery. And then where RMMV system really comes into place is when it comes to project monitoring. And then the final step is really by integrating, by creating a holistic end-to-end platform that helps to benefit smallholder farmers, but at the same time allows to verify sustainability data along global supply chain remotely. And I will go a bit more in detail into these 3 points now. So when it comes to a project, it always starts with traceability. If suppliers are not visible, how will you be able to engage the suppliers effectively to address deforestation or human rights issues? It's difficult. So within this project, we recruit local field agents that actually map these smallholder farmers in a palm oil supply chain. And as we need to understand that a large number of farmers, they're still digital illiterate. They sometimes don't have a smartphone. So currently what we cannot expect that actually smallholders farmers input the data on their own. But for example, they also sometimes have plantations and forest areas. As a smallholder farmers, of course, I would not record this. So it's really important to actually apply third-party monitoring approaches, which we also do, where you have actually extension stuff that helps to map these farmers. And an RMMV system or an agri-tech solutions like Quality Trace really can help to improve quality and efficiency through advanced questionnaire management. But then following these mapping and traceability activities, we also go beyond traceability within our project. This includes the training and coaching of farmers, helping them to achieve land legality, helping them to achieve sustainability standards such as RSPO and ISPO. And also here I see that agri-tech and RMMV system really can have the possibility to strengthen traditional capacity building approaches. So for example, one thing that we apply in our project is our data-driven one-on-one coaching methodology, where we actually provide tailor-made coaching sessions to farmers based on the previous data and assessment that we collected in our traceability journey by mapping these farmers and doing farm assessment. And also combined with observations and their experience, we really can provide tailor-made sessions to the farmers that really can then accelerate the adoption of good agriculture practice. At the same time, farmers, they will have access to their farmer app where they can access gamified mobile trainings that also supports their learning journey remotely. But where RMMV system really comes into place is when it comes to monitoring projects. So Quality Trace really helps us and our clients also to track the project progress in real time, and it allows us and our clients to reward our field team based on performance and automatically screen for the quality of data that is collected, which is really important. And at the same time, it also provides a new standard of transparency for our clients. So, I mean, you're probably many of you working in the development space. So you're used to preparing a lot of frequent monitoring reports. But basically, to an MV system, we can provide clients the possibility to track and follow up progress when they feel like it, just by logging in to our app. And then the last level, and this is where really agri-tech and RMMV system at an added benefit, is the integration of these farmers into a holistic end-to-end platform, which creates a benefit for the smallholder farmer and the buyer and allows to verify sustainability data remotely. So after a smallholder farmer is mapped, which will now be required by the EU regulation, then they can interact within our ecosystem. Yeah. So in our project, each actor actually has an app. An agri-input shop has an app, the farmer has an app, a buying station has an app, an extension staff has an app, and through this, farmers can gain access to knowledge, credit, and the carbon market at a fair and affordable price. So let's have a look a bit at the smallholder farmer in our ecosystem. What are the benefits? So for example, when they use our app, they can gain access to loans and digital payments. They can gain access to the gamified training materials and also chat to field agents nearby. And this allows them to continue also their learning journey remotely. Then also they see the transactions that they make with their buyers, and this allows them to verify this remotely. And finally, they also can gain access to agri inputs and seedlings. And for us, this also helps us to verify if the seedling that the farmer is using is of high quality, or if the pests and diseases that the farmer is buying are, for example, banned by the World Health Organization. So this really creates an end-to-end platform that provides farmer access to the data, and it helps to ensure triangulation of two different data points: the data point that is collected and the data point that is inputted by farmer and other supply chain actors. And this then really helps to empower smallholder farmers along global supply chain. So let me go back to basically my question. If the EU regulation can be also an opportunity for smallholder farmer, I really believe it can, because it can finally put move the sector towards shared responsibility and make the invisible visible by creating the foundation for smallholder farmers to gain access to knowledge and finance by joining an agri-tech end-to-end ecosystem such as Corteva. So thank you so much, and looking forward to the question. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Luca, for this very insightful presentation. At the moment, I cannot see any question in Slido, so please feel free, all our listeners, please feel free to share your questions with us. But I have maybe a first question to open the floor to others. So you said that you link the use of the technology with also boots on the ground and local consultants who help the farmers to map the farms, for example. Do you see a development towards a system, or a situation where this will not be necessary anymore?
So I highlight in my presentation the 3 steps, and I think in the first step, it's definitely required, and I think currently it will be required to meet the EU regulation. As I mentioned, you can't expect from a farmer that they will input the data by themselves. If you get them to put into data by themselves, then it's really difficult to assure high quality of data, right? And then this becomes an issue. If you get crap in, you get crap out. So it's so that's really important. So for quality reasons, it's still very important to have actually a third party in. However, as I explained in the third place, it is possible to create an end-to-end ecosystem, right? And if that is happening, if you have a farmer that interacting, inputting data, the dealer inputting transaction data from what they are buying from, I think this at least can help to create a triangulation of the data, and maybe in the future also help to verify more data also remotely, but I think we are not there yet. So I think it's still very challenging to digitalize rural agriculture supply chain. It requires a needed incentive structure to do so, premium payments, higher prices. Only then are actors along rural supply chains actually able to do it.
Yeah, thanks so much for your answer. And I think we are seeing quite the same challenges in our work at GIZ within agricultural supply chains, working with smallholder farmers. I now see lots of questions coming in, and I will only be able to pick the first one that came in, because afterwards we will switch to the second presentation. So the question is, how deep does the data gathering go? Does the application collect data on amount and types of pesticides used?
Yes, so we have our own agronomy team at Corteva. So we have actually designed our questionnaires, so there are different type of questionnaires, but basic traceability questionnaires, but we have also very detailed questionnaires that are aligned to sustainability standards such as Rainforest Alliance and RSPO. And that goes really into detail. It counts the number of trees to calculate the potential production. It includes pests and diseases. It includes fertilizer consumption, pesticides. And that's also actually where the extension stuff comes in, right? So because they don't only interview the farmer only, but they also verify what they see on the farm, right? So and this again gives this double layer.
Thank you very much, Luca, for your presentation and your answers to the questions.
Thank you so much too. looking forward to the next ones.
Yes, wonderful. So let us now switch to the second presentation. Saurav Srivastava, you are working for FarmForce. You are a product manager there. And you will now talk a little bit about challenges of accurate polygon mapping for deforestation compliant sourcing. And as mentioned in the introduction, you will also show us a live demo of the actual FarmForce interface. So the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Nolly, and thanks, Luca, for an excellent presentation before me. And I welcome everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening for wherever you're joining. So what we'll be discussing today is FarmForce's approach to how we address the first mile challenges in agri-tech, and how this actually links very closely to the upcoming EU proposal, which will eventually become a law, hopefully this year, and how it's important to have both online and offline data present for this to actually work. So we'll be using a coffee supply chain example over here, and then I'll be showing you a small demo around our enterprise deforestation monitoring module. So in order to have a clear understanding of what happens here, let's take a look at what a typical coffee supply chain looks like. So you have smallholder farmers which transfer bags of coffee. Now, these bags of coffee are purchased by uh, ultimately by conglomerates like Mars, Cargill, Nestle, etc. However, the actual purchase on ground from the smallholders are generally happening via co-ops or other rural warehouses. And this is where the on-ground challenges around collecting the data and translating the data throughout the supply chain starts. So when we look at this picture, you see when the rural warehouse or wet mill is collecting the bags, then the evacuation happens to the co-op warehouse, and eventually then it goes to the exporter warehouse and then exported out to EU or other destinations. So this is where FarmForce comes into picture, where we have a traceability platform which captures the farmer. It starts with the farmer identity and the field identity. The complete farmer profile is created so that you have the details of the farmers as well as the family members, which also helps the importers and the co-ops to comply with other regulations like CLMRS. Let's take Rainforest Alliance, for example, where you want to curb child labor. So you have to have the complete profile of the farmer as well as the field where you are importing it from. And if you think about it from a EU regulation standpoint around deforestation, so what it talks about is that you need to have the producer information, the field information, and the SKU information. So when you have this farmer identity, this is our proprietary platform IMS, which is where the first level of information is taken in. The first thing that we do is have an accurate polygon mapping uh, across mobile and web-based platform, which I'll be just showing you momentarily. And then you have the field information, which will cover the producer ID, the location, polygon maps, as well as the size. And most importantly, you have assigned quota options where you can assign specific quota to groups of fields, groups of farmers, or specific individual fields and farmers. And what we have done in addition to this is that we have already integrated the GFW, which is the Global Forest Watch API on our platform. So with a single click, a co-op or a MNC platform manager would be able to run validation across thousands of fields uh, through the automated API, and then double check that with a manual validation via the field agents, which is what I'll be talking about in the next slide. So the primary tenets or the primary pillars around which the deforestation check is centered around is focused around the data generation, the quality of the data that you get, and how the data is warehoused or how you're utilizing that data within and outside the platform. So while we are having the inputs coming in from either web or mobile, you have the polygon mapping options through you can bulk upload on the web, or you can map around by the field agents can go ahead on the field and map by walking around the field or creating polygons on the field map on the IMS app. Plus, it offers offline mobile support for field mapping. You don't really have to be online at any given time. So the thing is that when you work on the field, you where the actual sourcing happens, it's generally 80 to 90% of these areas have little to no internet connectivity. At best, you will have 2G connectivity. So our complete platform is enabled to support offline mapping of of the maps and offline checks of the deforestation area through the API as well. Now, the next steps are field tagging and group creation, auto validation for multiple fields, which I just talked about earlier, and single click field check for multiple fields, and parallelly run multiple certifications. So let's take an example that you're running Rainforest Alliance, Fair Trade, and a couple of other certifications at the same time. You can run all of those certifications on a platform for different groups of farmers, right? Now, after you've generated all this data, like my friend Luca also suggested, that you really have to have an accurate data, because crap in and crap out doesn't really work. So this is where the quality assurance comes into picture, and our tenant field settings actually help with overlap correction. If there is an overlap happening with the polygons, it flags it out. You have a geography control. So let's take an example that you have an area of a few hundred square kilometers, and you want to have polygons coming in only from that area. You can set that specific area as a positive node, and the polygons only from that area will be considered for sourcing. Similarly, you have size control validations, different tenant settings for deforestation validation, wherein you can select the age range, like whether deforestation has happened from 2003 to 2021. Similarly, you can select the range in the last 20 years where you want to check for deforestation. Manual checks from IMS and GMS, like I said, you can have automated checks running through the API, but also field agents going in with their mobiles and checking it manually. Then you have harvest level validation control, field level quota settings. All of this comes into play to create a holistic picture and give you a double and triple check quality assured data, so that the third party due diligence, when it happens, you can, as a importer, you can be rest assured that this is 100% accurate data. Then the last step that we have is that all of this is obviously possible within FarmForce, but you may want to export all of this data and create external data sets within other BI tools like Power BI or anything else. So through our API connectors, you can have that done. You can have customized reports done, or you can export all this data to an external BI tool. So here, in addition to the BI access, what we have also done, and which is what I'll be demoing in a moment, is a global heat map around deforestation, wherein all the fields that are available on the tenant, you'll be able to see a heat map of the fields with cross-referenced with the deforestation map, and when the last check on the around deforestation which has happened for that specific field. So with that in mind, let me just quickly take this session and jump into the demo. So what we have today here is a sample list of fields from Brazil, where we'll be showing you how the dashboard looks like, how the automated check of deforestation happens on an individual polygon, how the automated deforestation check happens across multiple fields, how the data is cached, and what kind of configuration options you have, and how the mobile deforestation maps work, and how the on-ground verification works. Right, so let me just quickly jump into the, yeah. So what you see here is the dashboard for our platform. So this is the global heat map, which you can see here. And as you can see, there are around 61 fields in Brazil. And if you zoom in here, you will be able to see all of these fields. Let's go to a cluster around here. So these fields are already mapped with some amount of deforestation coming in. Just let me see. Yeah. So let's see, look at these fields. And if you click on this button, this populates the deforestation map. So as an MIS manager who's wanting to look at all the data across the different fields that are located across the globe, this is how you'll be able to click and see with this, which fields are valid or invalid. Plus, if you click on a specific field, this tells you when the deforestation check was done, whether this field is valid or invalid, and what has been the sourcing detail, like who's the farmer, what's the field ID, what crop has he has been sourcing. Now, this is from a heat map perspective, but let's go a little deep. So this is the field section, right? Now, over here, what you can see is that there are a bunch of fields, field IDs which are generated, field names, sizes of the fields, which farmers are located, what's the crop variety. But what's most important is that you have these three columns called data quality, compliance status, and deforestation status. Now, if you click on this field, let's take this one because this one is invalid. Right. So if you click on this field, you will be able to see the polygon for this field. And when you click on this map again, it shows you why this is invalid, because the deforestation is all of the red that you see. This is the deforested area. And let me parallelly show you something else. So within the tenant settings, you have something called start and end year for the deforestation. So if you change these, you will be able to select which areas or which age range you're looking at for the deforestation. And let me parallelly show you how this works on the mobile as well. So we have our mobile app, which you should be able to see now. Yep. So what we were looking at was this guy called Diole. Now, if you scroll down, this is the same tenant which we have on the mobile. So this is the same person, Diole Rose. Now you have a bunch of different options over here when you look at the profile for Diole, but we want to go and look at his fields. So we go into the fields, and within the fields, you can see different options like when was the harvest done, what has been the sales that has been accrued from him. But what we are looking at right now is the field deforestation status. So if you click over here, and you can run an automated deforestation check through the mobile, which is through the web, through this by clicking on run field validation, or you can do the same by, so this mobile obviously is with the field agent. He goes into the field and he clicks and adds a field deforestation status over here. He can add a validation source that this was checked manually. He can add validation status valid or invalid. But more importantly, he can flick a picture, and that picture would be stored in our cache that could be exported for third-party validation during the due diligence check. And all of this data is cached in the field deforestation log, like that. So as you can see here, all of the farmers that have been checked for field deforestation, you can see whether the check was done through the automated API, or whether it was done through a manual check. So let's look at this person, the one which we were looking for. Yeah. So his fields are all valid. Now, how does this work as a due diligence, as an end result in the due diligence report? So what it
Saurav,
shows.
sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt, but we will have to move to the Q&A shortly.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So this was the last section, that the due diligence report is the end result of all the actions that we have just done, and it shows you a summary of how the automated and manual checks were carried out. Yeah, let's look at some questions.
Thank you so much, Saurav. It's quite impressive what you just showed us. And it's very interesting. And maybe one quick question from my side would be, did you see this new EU law coming, or did you guys at FarmForce plan to have this module anyways?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Ole. And actually, we kind of felt that this was something which was getting more and more important, and for both sources as well as legislatures. And we kind of started developing something around this early last year. But luckily, I think we are moving in the right direction from a legislation perspective.
Now, looking at the chat, at the Q&A, I can see a couple of questions that actually go into the same direction. There are a couple of questions asking about the costs for this, like who does cover the cost for smallholder farmers, who pays for your service, the big companies who are sourcing or are connected with the smallholders. And this is not just a question for you, for the FarmForce application, but also for you, Luca. Maybe you can jump in after Saurav's answer. Thanks.
No, yeah, and that's a very legit question. And so because the importers are the ones who are actually getting in this, all the crops that are listed in the legislation. So the platform is actually bought and serviced by the specific MNCs or the cooperatives who are working with these farmers, who are working with the sourcing agencies on the ground. So those are the ones who are paying for this.
Luca, do you also want to answer from the Cultiva side on the cost question?
Yeah, I mean, it's mainly covered by the supply chain actors along the supply chain. Yeah, so I mean, the large costs really are like the multinational companies, and then maybe their suppliers share costs. So usually we try to get all the actors along the supply chain on board. But yeah, usually I mean the farmers, or they don't carry any cost there, and the buying stations, etc. So confirming what you said already.
Thank you for those answers. I have another question to you, Saurav. What happens to a farmer if his field is invalid?
Yeah, so it's specifically when you're looking at valid or invalid feeds, there are ways to address this. So when you are looking at sourcing for a specific polygon, you can adjust the polygon because you can look at that data when your sourcing cycle starts. And that's what most of the MNCs do, that they plan for the sourcing cycle well ahead in advance. And if they can adjust a specific polygon accordingly so that there is no deforestation in that area.
Thank you for this answer as well. I'm screening the chat. And I will take up the last question that was posed a couple of seconds ago. The apps or the applications, the solutions that you presented collect personal data on farmers. How about data privacy and security?
Yeah, so we are extremely compliant with all GDPR norms, and the data that is collected all of the data that I showed you is a sample data, by the way. It's not real data. So, but the data which is collected is only available at co-op level. Any other third party does not get access to that data. So this is not shared with anybody else.
Thank you so much, Saurav, for these very insightful insights and examples that you showed to us. Thank you so much.
And I'll be happy to take any other questions directly after the session.
Wonderful. So we have the networking area exactly for those direct exchanges. So please feel free. Last but not least, we are now switching and handing over to Melanie Madrid, who is based in Honduras. And I must say, I'm really impressed, Melanie, that you are here with us today, because I know that it's very early in Honduras. It's, I think, 5 a.m. where you are. So wonderful that you are here with us. Thanks. And you will now present you work for the ProExo Coffee Cooperative in Honduras, and you already completed the mapping of all the cooperative's coffee farms, right? And this is your experience that you would like to present to us today. So please, Melanie, the floor is yours.
Hi, thanks. Hello, everyone. Thanks for the spot, and it's my pleasure to be here today. And as you said, Nali, it's very early here. It's 5:17 a.m. In this side of the world, but I'm here and I am happy to share my experience. So to start off, I'm gonna talk about what it's ProExo. For those who don't know us, I am sure that most of the people may not know about our organization because we are in the west side of Honduras. So like I said, we are in Honduras, and it's a social economic company that seeks and sustains the primacy of work and opts for social ownership of the means of production, and seeks to establish that the surplus generated is a means to raise the standard of living of its members. Our main focus is the production and marketing of a specialty coffee certified under international and conventional standards. Currently, we have a multi-seal program, and it's managed with 5 production certifications that demand the implementation of good agricultural practices that are friendly to the environment and human well-being, improve productivity, better income, and a whole process of continuous improvement. Next slide, please. Thanks. So our topic for today is the first-hand experience with mapping the polygons. I think Sarah gave us like a introduction to my presentation because I see that you work with the traceability of coffee as well. So for those that are not sure where is Honduras, we're in Central America. I have a map in the screen just to show where we are located, and then I have a map of Honduras, and then the red dot is where we are located especially. Next slide, please. So the process, what it's exactly mapping the polygons? Well, mapping the polygons in farm refers to the process of creating geographic maps that represent the boundaries of a farm field, orchards, or other agricultural lands. The maps can provide valuable information that help farmers to make informed decisions and improve the productivity of their farms. Next slide, please. Thanks. So why we're doing this? So there are several reasons why we're doing it. The first one is because of the new European Union law that bans the trade of commodities associated with deforestation and forest degradation. As a company that works with coffee, we export coffee. We are one of the countries that most export coffee in the world. after Brazil and Colombia. So we would like to implement all these laws because we have a lot of clients based in Europe. So this law is known as the European law that due diligence regulation and aims to ensure that the companies importing and trading commodities, in this case, coffee, into the European Union do not contribute to deforestation and forest degradation. Banning the trade of commodities associated with the deforestation and forest degradation is a measure that can help to reduce the negative impacts on the environment and promote sustainable land use practices and protect the rights of indigenous people. The other reason why we're doing this, it's because of the need for coffee companies to advance in their digitalization process. Improve supply chain management can mean that digitalization can help coffee companies to better manage their supply chain, from sourcing to production to distribution. This can help to increase transparency and traceability, reduce waste, and improve sustainability. And in conclusion, let's say digitalization is increasing important for coffee companies to remain competitive and meet the changing needs and expectations of their customers, suppliers, and partners. The other reason we're doing it, it's the type of data coffee companies should share with the authorities, especially with customers or clients. One I will say is the sustainability information. Companies should share their information about sustainability practice, including their efforts to reduce their impact on the environment and promote responsible land use. This may include data on their use of water, energy, and other sources, as well as information on sourcing practices, such as the origin of the coffee beans. And then I'll say the supply chain information. Companies should provide transparent information about their supply chain, including the sources of the coffee beans and the processing, manufacturing, and methods used, the conditions under the coffee is grown and harvested. This can help to build trust with customers and demonstrate a commitment to responsible sourcing. Coffee companies should share a variety of data with authorities and customers to build trust and demonstrate their commitment to responsible business practices. Sharing information about sustainability, supply chains, and transparency can help to inform purchasing decisions and promote the responsible production of sale of coffee. And then we have the consumer benefits. This builds a trust and confidence in the customer satisfactions due to the guarantee of transparency in the information about the product. This also increases the customer expectations of the product, for example, the expected quality. Also improve the product quality because traceability allows consumers to better understand the quality of products that they are purchasing, as they see the origin of the product and the process used to produce it. This can help to ensure that the products they buy meet their expectations in the terms of quality, flavor, and freshness. In this case, the coffee. Next slide, please. Thanks. Then we have the experience. I'll say there are pros and cons about the mapping polygon. So I'll say we can take the farmer's data identified of all the aspects of the farm, for example, the water system, like irrigation system, the wood species, and the forest area. This can also help us to crop the plant. Polygon maps can be used to plant crops and manage crop rotation, which helps farmers to optimize the use of their land and improve yields. Also, like I said, the irrigation management. Polygons also can be used to manage the irrigation systems and including the distribution of water to different fields, to which can help to conserve the water and improve the crop fields. And then I don't like to say cons, but it's a little bit hard in our area because we don't have like a flat area. In Honduras, we have a lot of mountains, and sometimes it can be difficult to take the polygons. So that's why we have here the time to identify the paths, because the technicians, the people who do this, can have a very hard time walking around the field. Like I said, it's not flat, and then the route to walk around the perimeter can be harder for them. And then the weather, if it's cloudy, the system will not take the polygon accurately. It will not be exactly. So the currency here is that there's always a risk of errors in the mapping process, particularly if the boundaries are not accurately surveyed or if the mapping equipment is not functioning correctly. This can result in disputes over land ownership and use, as well as confusion about the extent of individual farms. So in here, we would like to take as much as we can accurate all the area, so our clients can see where the coffee is coming from and can see all the traceability, and can see, as Sarah was showing us, the area in the farms, how is the perimeter and how is it working, if there's no deforestation, and everything in the map. In conclusion, in this in this part of the presentation, I will say that mapping the polygon boundaries in farms has the potential to bring several benefits, but also have some potential drawbacks. Next slide, please. And then here we have the tools used to track the polygons. We are not advanced as much, I'll say, like in other countries, so we do it as we can. We have the GPS, we have a notebook, we have a draft, and then we have the ArcGIS software system. We have we use the notebook and a draft to compare it to what the ArcGIS system is showing us. So we have the draft, and then we have the system, and we see if we have any disturbances, any differences. So we use it to check. Next slide, please. Thanks. And then we have some lessons learned that we like to implement in the process. We have the factors to consider for improvement, for example, a symbology, and I will explain later why. We have the buffer zones, and then we have biodiversity. I have here that biodiversity can be included as a point of improvement and used for research. Why I have this? Because in our country, we have a variety of wildlife, especially in the mountains where the coffee is grown. So we'd like to implement more of this. And then I would like to explain more about the buffer zones, because these are areas of land established.
Sorry if I have to interrupt, but yeah, 2 minutes, and then we go to the questions.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I'm about to finish here. So the buffer zones are areas of land established to separate different zones or ecosystems and to serve as a protective barrier. So I'll show how the buffer zones are differentiated from the mapping the polygons. They can serve a variety of purposes, including conserving natural habits, like I was saying, and protecting the water quality and promoting sustainable agriculture. Next slide, please. And yeah, here I have like a map of one of our farmers. You can see the green area, of course, is the farm. Then we have like the reserve area or the buffer zone. We cannot touch that. And then we have some infrastructure, but you can see the symbology is not as good as we would like to be. We would like to be like more specific. And then we have all those farm. This farm is organic coffee, and then we have other organic coffee farms surrounding it. But yeah, you can see the symbology is not as specific as we would like, and this is the result after mapping the polygons in the ArcGIS system. And that next slide, please. And yeah, that's my presentation, and thank you. We have some farm. I have a farmer and one of our technicians in the field, in the farm, taking the polygons, and that's what we do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melanie. That was very interesting to have your first-hand experience and a real user experience from you guys from the ProExo Coffee Cooperative. I have one question, because you talked about the technicians who walk around the fields to do the work and enter the data. Are these ProExo members? Do they work directly for ProExo, or was that an external service that you paid for?
No, they work for us. They are in the technical part of our team. They also work with certifications, and they are in charge of the good management of the farms with directly with the farmers. So they are in contact with them. So they can teach levels, I'll say, how to manage the farms according to new laws, according to our certifications, because we have audits, companies that come and make sure we're doing the right work. But yeah, they work for us.
Okay, great. I take up one question from the chat. How do you control possible deforestation is one of the questions.
Yeah, great question. So we are here using this system, but as well we have some other laws in our country that ban deforestation. So if someone do deforestation, they will have like a fee or probably go to jail. So yeah, it's we can control it. I will say in that part, like in the coffee business or world, we can control that because we have those laws in our country. And as well, the farmer will not want to do deforestation because their coffee will not be sold to Europe, let's say.
Well, thank you so much, Melanie. Thank you also to Luca and Saurav. We are now coming to the end of the session. We had really insightful presentations about technologies used and first-hand experiences and the live demo. So this was really a great session for me. I learned a lot, and I'm really looking forward to the new developments that are going to happen this year and next year until the EU law actually comes into place. So I'm going to follow this whole discussion and what's happening here very closely. Thank you very much. But before we close the session, we want to include the audience once again with a quick Slido poll. And for this, we have one question for you, which is, in your opinion, what do you see as the biggest opportunity to improve traceability and transparency in global agricultural supply chains in the next 5 years? Is it adoption of digital tools throughout supply chains, standardization of traceability systems, greater use of data analytics and AI, increased collaboration between industry players, greater support for farmer involvement, or anything else? So please click on the answer you find most relevant. Or you can even choose 3 answers here. And here again, we have the answers coming in. So the adoption of digital tools throughout supply chains seems to be the biggest opportunity for the audience today. But we also see that greater support for farmer involvement is also a big opportunity, maybe also a challenge, as we talked about during the presentations. And standardization of traceability systems is also one of the top 3 answers. Great. So thanks again for your participation in this session. And I hope you enjoyed the presentations. And let's meet again on the panel discussion in the main session. Thank you very much.